And we are live. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's still, I'm going to keep saying this for the next week and a half. It still feels really weird that we don't have games. I don't know about you. I'm a little, not stressed, but I'm looking at how long the damn off season is. Am I being a little bit off base and lame?
I think that there's a couple of ways to look at it. Think about this, man. I mean, listen, the month of January is already done. Mm-hmm. You have 28 days, and then you'll have spring football.
All right, that's a much better way of framing it. I'm impatient, but I think
you do know that like Hawaii, I get it's Hawaii. You know Hawaii starts spring football in like a week?
Like the University of Hawaii.
Yeah, the University of Hawaii. Why? I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I saw their football post on Instagram, and it said 1 week away, spring is here. And I'm like, by the way, when I saw it, it was literally snowing 10 inches in the state of Louisiana. It's never snowed that much ever. And I'm like, what?
Well, it ain't snowing in Hawaii. That game better be broadcasted. I will watch that.
That is for sure. And by the way, which kind of ends this whole argument that the Deep South doesn't get snow.
Well, you guys, you get snow. It just doesn't and it gets cold down there. It doesn't happen often. But what you told me that it was
a foot worth of snow, because I'm pretty much over it. Or
did it already melt?
I mean, yeah, it's going to melt. But I mean, here's the thing. You do not deal with this heat. That is for damn sure.
I don't think it's that bad. It gets hot here too, man. Like I know it gets hot.
We went to New York in the middle of July, and
wasn't even the hottest it gets.
I was put on a jacket.
That wasn't stop. That's not true. That's not even the hottest it gets here. It was 96. That's not even the hottest it really
feels like 127 here.
Oh, dude, I won't believe it.
Okay, we'll just come down here.
I'll come visit in the summer.
Right,
I'd love to test that out. I'd love to test that out.
But nevertheless, I do agree. Look, but you basically have a month, right? Like you have a month and then spring football will start. And Joe, I got to be honest with you. I've said this not here, but I've said it other places. Mm-hmm. I think this is one of the more intriguing off seasons that we've ever had. If I'm being point blank and honest, I'm not even remotely close to being there with you. Just in the sense of that, look at how many teams went in the portal. Look at how many teams are revamping their entire roster. Man, I think we got so much to talk about. And quite honestly, I know it seems like a lot of time, but not a lot of time.
Well, I kind of said this and brought this up yesterday. This is you mentioned, I think you put a really good frame on this, because it is a really intriguing offseason, because we had a ton of parity last year when we weren't really expecting it. Like we thought, and we spent most of the offseason talking about how we thought that Georgia and Ohio State were going to dominate, and they both had their faults. Georgia fell short a lot sooner than Ohio State did. Ohio State goes on their championship run and all that. This year, there's no favorite. There's really not. A case can be made, and as you said yesterday, a case can be made for 10 teams. And I think that we can maybe dig a little bit further. This year's national champion might not even be on our radar. It might be a team that we're not even talking about in the top 10. It could be a team like Ole Miss. It could be a program.
I can't go there because, again, Ohio State is chalky. Joe, we talked about a year ago today that Ohio State making the moves with Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Downs, that they were by far the most talented team, and the chalk went out. They won the national title.
But there's none of that this year. Like, who's the chalk team this year that has bringing back the most talent?
Did you know that this was going to happen?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But to that point, who is bringing back the most talent and had the best transfer portal additions? Because Penn State is bringing back a lot of talent, but don't. I'm not going to sit here and admit that LSU is going to go win a national title. I'm not going to do that. But they are a team that deserves to be brought up in the mix, because
I'm not there with you either. I'm playing around. But to the point, I agree. I'm not, as far as winning a national title, I do think that, I mean, look, man, a big brand's going to have to, or not a blue blood or not big brand that we've seen is going to have to do it. Again, let's go through the 20 years. I mean, if you're telling me that I got 2 decades and you tell me, well, Blake Auburn won it, and I'm like, my brother in Christ, they've played for 2 national titles in the last 20 years. That's more than some of any other schools in the country, right? If you say, well, Notre Dame. Okay, well, Notre Dame's played for 2 national titles in the last 20 years. They've been to 3. They haven't won any, okay? Or no, they've been to 2. But they've been to multiple playoffs. Okay, whatever. Joe, I mean, it's not as if that we're not getting chalk versus chalk here. When it comes brand versus brand. I mean, now you could say the teams that like Georgia faced TCU, right? Okay. You could make that argument. But then they got blown out by 67 points. So then it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm with you on that there's going to be a lot of parity, and we personally don't know who it's going to be. But college football continues to teach us not to do that. Well, right? It constantly teaches us not to do that.
To clarify, and I think this is something that often gets missed by the statement that there's going to be a lot of parity. Parity in the sport means that the teams that have in the last 100 years have won national titles and at least been ranked and been at the top of their conferences at one time or another, it's the premier programs that have the investment. Those are the teams that there's going to be parity amongst. There's 20 teams that there's going to be parity. Everybody outside of that, the gap has widened. The gap has absolutely widened between the middle to the back end of most conferences, and especially from the G5. The argument has never been that a team like Boise State could win a title. That's not what parity means.
Did you see that On3 came out with their top quarterbacks in the country and Sam Leavitt was number 1?
I was intrigued by that, and I got to be honest.
Come on.
Well, he shouldn't be number 1, but, man, I watched that kid's tape when I was breaking down Cam Scadaboo's highlights. Or not his highlights, his all-22 for his draft profile. Dude, that kid is so underrated. I don't think enough people knew who he was. But somebody didn't throw a ton of bread at him to transfer. I'm really shocked.
That's fair, but I mean, you're going number 1.
I think that it's not crazy to do because of.
I hate when they do those, by the way, because they don't put a person's name behind it.
I know it probably was like a cumulative round table type of a ranking or something like that.
Cumulative my asshole.
But the take here for him being at least top 3, there's not a lot of returning starters. There's a lot of projection that's going on. I mean, he's not returning starters. There's like 5 that we can think of that had really good seasons last year.
I get it. I take DJ Lagway over Leavitt right now.
I wouldn't do that just yet.
I would. I mean, the kid beat 4 ranked opponents in the last month, or 3 ranked opponents in the last month. You damn Skippy, I would.
By the end of the year, I think DJ
he was throwing to a tomato can. He was throwing to a ketchup packet. I mean,
who was Leavitt throwing to?
He had arguably one of the best running backs in college football.
Yeah, but he wasn't. We watched the Texas game. My man was running for his life.
Didn't know how to count, and he's scoring touchdowns for the man.
Leavitt was running for his life, and he was still. Guys were dropping balls that he was throwing to him. I don't know.
Big ball droppers.
What are we talking about today?
I mean,
it's 10 minutes in. We're saying stupid shit. What are we talking about today?
I mean, is Arizona State a big ball drop team? Your mind's the one that went in the gutter, not mine.
I ain't gonna answer that question. You know what you're doing. I am not answering that question.
Big ball droppers. I mean, I don't. You got to stop being so perverted.
Not even February, man.
It's still in a search as Al Golden went to Cincinnati. He was actually announced either today or yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, as the Bengals' next DC. They're in the search for a new DC. We're going to continue to monitor this, but it's obviously one of the bigger coordinator roles in the country, going to Notre Dame as a coordinator. Your thoughts on what Notre Dame needs to do, where you think they're going to go, and all that good stuff.
I was really hoping that they were going to go with Jim Leonard. I thought that was a hire that would have been perfect because you're bringing in a guy that was one of the best defensive coordinators in college football, and he has since moved on to the NFL, and he would be huge for Notre Dame not missing a step. Right now, the speculation that's been reported by The Athletic and a number of other outlets, and it sounds like it could eventually come through and be final soon, is that Chris Ash, who's the former co-DC at Ohio State, the former DC at Texas, and also was the head coach of Rutgers, is very likely to be Notre Dame's next defensive coordinator. Now, I would assume that Mike Mickens, who has been a riser in the coaching industry and has been super impactful on Notre Dame's coaching staff as their defensive backs coach, will probably have some sort of a role here. I would hope that he is also going to be a co-DC, but here's the research I did on Chris Ash and why I freaking hate this move if this is who they end up going with and this gets finalized.
I love the move.
Luke Fickell. He was a co-DC with Luke Fickell. One can easily assume that Luke Fickell was the one who was actually having the impact back in 2014. I'm from New Jersey. I know a lot of former Rutgers players. I used to train with a lot of them in the summers. None of them had good things to say about Chris Ash. Nothing but extremely negative things to say about Chris Ash. Not going to repeat most of them. It's not like there's anything like bad, but not exactly a resounding review being given by these former Rutgers players. And the nail in the coffin, the last time that he was a pure defensive coordinator was in 2020 at Texas. They allowed 406.6 yards per game and 140 rush yards per game. It was during COVID, but that's still awful. That's terrible. So this is not a good hire if this ends up being finalized, Blake, to put it simply.
Okay. Do you remember the conversation that I had that the worst case scenario that Notre Dame could have would be Marcus Freeman calling plays? Do you remember this conversation?
I do.
There's been an issue in college athletics. Stay with me here because I'm going to get to the point, but stay with me. College baseball has taught us a lot of things about the portal more than any other sport to date. It's not remotely close. When these teams go to Omaha and they battle it out and coaches leave, players leave, they're trying to do the portal, they can't get who they want because they're trying to win a national title. They can't do it. It does not benefit their team. They can't get the players in from the portal. Staff overturn is massive, and it's not working for them. It's going to happen to Marcus Freeman. Might happen at Ohio State. We'll wait and see. But Ohio State can be in a different issue. The reason I bring that up, I think that you're seeing late dates happen, right? Meaning later dates in reference to these moves being made, and it's going to hurt teams that go to national titles. Joe, it happens in the NFL, right? It happens. It's going to happen now in college football. Don't be alarmed. If it is Chris Ash, I'm going to be honest with you. Start screaming now for Marcus Freeman to call plays and for Chris Ash to be the guy that looks after things. Now, it's a one-year issue, and I think that there could be some things going on that maybe they weren't ready for. It's what it feels like if it is Chris Ash. But if that's the move that you're making, it seems that you're going with a guy that I'm just going to be honest with you, that a lot of young coaches do. You're making the safe hire that you know. Did Marcus Freeman pick up the phone and call Luke Fickell and say, hey, I need a DC. Who can I hire? And he says, Chris Ash is somebody that I really like.
It's not a bad point.
So I'm not going to completely necessarily throw him underneath the bus for a couple of things. Number one, it didn't work out for him as a head coach. It has nothing to do with him as a coordinator. Never has, never will. Ask Al Golden how that went. The problem with the 2020 Texas thing during COVID, Joey, what was he supposed to implement during COVID? What was he supposed to do?
That's a fair point. I got to give him a little bit of grace there.
I mean, no, a little bit of grace. You better give him a lot of grace because, Joe, he can't meet with his players but only 3 hours a week.
And I think that was the first year of Sark, so like they didn't have a great.
No, it wasn't. It was the last year of Tom Herman. Sark came in 2021. Sark was the OC at
Okay.
Bama in 2020.
We're talking 400 yards of offense they're giving up per game.
I can't deny it, but there's a reason he's brought in and Herman's fired. The whole staff gets fired. I mean, look, it's not on him that he's fired. I mean, their offense stunk too. I mean, he's coming in with players that are already there, and he can't do anything during the portal. He can't do anything. He can't recruit. He can't do anything about it. I understand what you're saying. Here's the bigger problem that I have. My brother's a scout at Jacksonville. That means he's taken a lot of lumps, and then even Fickle didn't hire him on the staff in any kind of way. He's a scout in Jacksonville. I think that people told you what they thought of him when he had a chance to get back into college football after he left the Raiders, for him to get back in college football, and he didn't. It's going to be an interesting hire, but I don't want to. I still think that you're okay with Marcus Freeman on defense. I still think that he's going to be heavily involved and then reset after the next year. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But it's crazy that I'm the one telling you not to hit the panic button yet.
I'm not purely hitting the panic button. I'm just trying to provide
it's not the hire that you want.
It's not the hire that we want. It's not a sexy one. And I think that all the necessary context that I had of, one, literally talking to guys who played for him. And then two, just
I can't defend that. That's damning. That's very.
And to put it simple, all they just said is they didn't like him as a coach. They didn't think that he was the right man to lead it. I love Coach Flem. I've got a bobblehead of Coach.
I've only loved one head coach that I've ever had. All the other ones sucked.
They were awful, and they blamed their lack of results on the field on him. They didn't think that he was. Quite frankly, they basically framed it as they didn't think he was smart enough to be a head coach. That was how they put it, which is kind of, to your point, it's damning. Like, that's a damning thing to say. Sitting next to a guy when we're getting ready to warm up to go train at the gym that I used to train at in college, and then just kind of candidly we're talking about that. It's kind of crazy to just sit there and admit that about a guy. Who's your head coach? Who recruited you?
I mean, again, now there is something that I do want to mention, and I'm just going to throw out there. A lot of things have changed at Notre Dame over the last 3 years when it comes to collective, when it comes to money being spent for coordinators, yada, 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 yada. You sure about that? Look, when you told me that we were going to make this conversation or have this conversation about Notre Dame and staff and all this kind of stuff, I made phone calls. I was like, hey, what is going on in reference to money, in reference to are they letting Freeman go out there and outbid some people? I'm going to tell you.
Wait, hold on. You just said that, look, the money that they're spending is not an issue. You just said that they were late in this process. They were.
They are.
That's the plain definer here.
I'm with you. But there is another side of this, though. Pick up a phone and call these agencies. Call people in the business that know. They're going to tell you what I just said. I promise you it's going to happen. I know for a 100% fact it's going to happen because I had the conversation today. That was the thing that they brought up all to me. I called 3 of them. Like, hey, what's going on at Notre Dame?
I'm telling you from what I've heard that the finances is not an issue.
Okay, so the agencies are lying and Notre Dame's telling the truth.
They just paid a shitload of money for Mike Denbrock. Like, I don't think that's it.
That is fair. That is very fair.
I think that's
what happened with Al Golden.
Al Golden talked about this today when he was doing his opening press conference with the Bengals, like why he left. And he talked about he wanted to be in a position to go back to the NFL and leave a situation better than when he got there. And he was able to accomplish that. I don't blame him for that. I think that he is an older guy who has an aspiration to be an NFL coach. Blake, also coordinators not every coordinator is going to be Jim Knowles getting that much money. Notre Dame also inquired about Jim Knowles. So, like, there's not like that. There's not an aspiration.
So why didn't you put your hat in the ring?
Well, it sounds like Knowles kind of had his mind made up pretty quickly.
You get where I'm coming from. Again, I'm going to listen to people that are actually behind these contracts. Like, let me give an example. When LSU gets in a bidding war like this, I never go to LSU about it because they're going to lie their asses off. They're always, oh, hell yeah, we are lying. We do everything right. We're doing bullshit. What are the people that are actually putting these things together going to do? I'm listening to your boy now. You know, I don't. There's some bullshit I get behind you now.
There's no financial issues. They've already spent money elsewhere. I really don't think that
Chris Ash is. You think that Chris Ash is Marcus Freeman's number one choice?
I wouldn't be surprised based on what you said with the whole Luke Fickell thing that he wasn't convinced that it would be a good idea. I think this is an underlying part of this.
Then what happens if it goes wrong?
Mickens, if it goes wrong, then it's going to blow up in their face. You're 100% right about that.
Okay,
so I remember when Brian Kelly hired Brian Van Gorder and he sucked. And
don't make this about Brian.
No, all I'm saying is that bad hires.
10 minutes.
Stop. It has nothing to do with Brian Kelly at LSU. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm trying to say is that Notre Dame has had bad DC hires. Brian Van Gorder was a weird hire that didn't make sense and it didn't work out.
And then he brought you.
I'm not questioning Brian. Stop a second. Stop. I'm not.
And then Marcus Freeman.
But that's the point, is that sometimes you fail and then the next hire is a better hire.
That's why I said in the beginning, there are two sides of this coin. Either it is his number one choice and it could blow up in his face. Number two, I do think that this could be a process of what happened with college baseball and continues to happen with college baseball. Al Golden just told you 2 weeks ago that he was leaving. I call bullshit on that. I call massive amounts of bullshit on that.
Well, you can't start looking for a new DC with a sitting DC, and I would assume that
the
coaching staff was smart enough to not make this a public thing, because it happens all the time where a coordinator leaving, it becomes a distraction.
Well, but I don't care about the public. I care about what Marcus Freeman did. Marcus Freeman knew. You can't tell me that you're not having.
You're on a national championship run. Why would you waste your attention on looking for a defensive coordinator?
Joe, that's what separates guys like Nick Saban and everybody else.
I disagree on that.
You mean
he's in his third year. We've talked about his naivete to the situation. He's new to all of this. Why would he?
It's not an excuse.
Why would he spend his attention on hiring a new DC?
Joe, if my son punches, to win a title, if my 5-year-old son punches somebody, it doesn't make it any less wrong because he's young that he did it. Makes no. You cannot convince. Joe, let me ask you this question: are you really going to sit here? This is what you're saying. You're going to say no, it's not, but it is. You're going to literally sit here and tell me that Marcus Freeman, number one, did not know that this was going to go on. And then number two, that he already wasn't making phone calls about the situation. By the way, you mean to tell me that an AD's office wasn't doing it? Because that is their job to do that.
I understand that, but I could be willing to bet that their attention wasn't fully focused on looking for a new DC.
I never said it wasn't fully focused.
They're going to play for a national championship. That is priority number one.
Joe, literally the day before a national title, Nick Saban hired Steve Sarkisian before Lane Kiffin.
That was a very unique circumstance, and we both know that. The rift that happened between Lane and Nick Saban was
the same thing. He did literally the same thing with Pete Golding. You cannot
I don't remember the Pete Golding timeline enough to
basically Kirby was going to get the job, and he was already. Already done.
You're comparing, though, Nick Saban, the greatest head coach of all time, to a guy in his third year who got to his first national title. Like, why are we?
You're making way too much of an excuse for him for not being ready to go for now.
I'm gonna make an excuse.
So what is he doing a 24-hour day? You're talking about preparing for a national title. He can't take an hour a day out of his own day to figure out what he's doing for DC when Al Golden tells him to sleep.
An hour a day in a 10-day lead up is not enough time to prepare for that.
Joe, you literally call 1-800-MY-AGENT, and your agent also represents all these other coaches.
I'd be willing.
And you tell your agent, hold on. You tell your agent that you need a DC. Al Golden is gone, which, by the way, your agency probably already knows. You mean to tell me that you can't take conversations with your agent in reference to what you got to do now? That is a bullshit excuse.
It's not an excuse. And at the same time, I talk to and know enough about how agents work that they politic. And you want to bet that Chris Ash's agent didn't get his name shoved into this list? He was a scout at Jacksonville. You think that that's not how he's cut the line?
Okay. Seriously. He's going into his fourth year. At what point is he not new anymore? Because I remember a day. Hold on.
He's not new anymore. I would agree with that statement.
Okay, so then the statement of him being a coach that's a third year in his 10 years as head coach.
He's never been in a playoff situation before. I would rather he focus on a national championship than him hiring a DC. I'd be pissed if he knew who he was hiring next and they lost.
I didn't say hire. I said you got to be prepared for what's going on. If Chris Ash is your choice. Okay, then. That's why I'm saying there's only two avenues in this.
Okay, the last part with this, there's not two avenues. The last part of this, I mentioned Mickens. And I think that Mickens is somebody who is going to get co-defensive coordinator and a co-defensive coordinator opportunity. Chris Ash is enough of a lower, experienced enough but lower tier option that if it doesn't go well, you can demote him and promote Mickens. I think that is more, and it's also like it's hard to hire a DC with the incentive of like, hey, you got to co-DC with another guy that we all have on staff that we don't want to lose. Like that is something to take into account here. They needed somebody who I think was comfortable with the situation, and I'm glad that and I'm hoping that they do give that to Mickens because he is an awesome DB coach. But I think that that's a part of this that's probably not going to get talked about. That's a good explanation.
Boy, y'all give Marcus Freeman a lot more cushion than y'all gave Kirby Smart and Ryan Day when they lost a national championship.
We didn't give him any cushion when he lost to NIU. I'm flipping. I'm flipping now. I'm giving him a shitload of cushion because he deserved the cushion at the time.
Hold on. You're going to sit here and tell me that Kirby and Ryan Day got the same amount of cushion from the national media that Marcus Freeman is getting at the current moment. They got absolutely abused.
No, they didn't. After their fourth year? No, come on, man.
Joe, literally, the Tua Tagovailoa thing happened to Kirby, and they said he was unprepared and he couldn't overcome a big obstacle. They were calling him a choke artist. You remember the narratives? That was literally what everybody was talking about with Georgia and Kirby. He was a choke artist.
I obviously remember that, but you're trying to make it seem like that we let Blake.
Can you answer the question, yes or no? Did those coaches get the same amount of cushion, literally, that Marcus Freeman is right now as a first-time head coach? Yes or no?
Ryan Day we need to talk about the context. He took over Urban Meyer's team. Him getting criticized is completely different. It's completely different.
I mean, I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm not trying to be rude here.
Brian Kelly's team was not a national championship caliber team.
You are number 5.
All right, we need to move on. This is going to take over the whole show.
Took over a job that did not have a winning season. There are differences, but it's not as if that Marcus Freeman.
Mark Richt wasn't that bad of a coach. They were.
If I'm not mistaken, they were 6-7 that last year, or 7-5. They were close. They got it.
7-5 is not below 5.
9-5. They were like 7-5, 8-4. They were not good when at Mark Richt's end.
Okay. Again, we're going down a rabbit hole here.
I get it.
We got to get to, but I don't
want to hear any more about Marcus Freeman.
We criticized the shit out of him after he lost NIU.
No, you did. You did.
No. The whole coaching.
Have you blamed him once? Have you blamed him once since the national title loss? Have you said that anything that he did was wrong?
No, because he has earned the grace. It's been a week, Blake. It's been a week since this has happened.
2 weeks.
That was last Monday, dude.
Fuck it. It doesn't feel like that. I guess when you get that much snow, I don't know. I'm gonna be talking about this snow event for such a long time. All right. Way too early SEC. So, Joe, we did do our way too early top 10 going into yesterday. But we're going to continue to go through the conferences. Tonight, we start off with the SEC. There are 3 teams in the SEC, one that was in our top 10, but 2 that were not, that we're going to focus on here. Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama are 3 teams that I think a lot of people have a lot of question marks going into the 2025 season. I think Alabama was somebody that you and I had talked about that was not in our top 10 going into the 2025 season. Number 1, why? And number 2, how do you see them right now in January of the 2025 season?
I think that like the out of any of these teams that are still going to get love as a top 25 team coming into the year, Alabama is the one that I think has the most uncertainty. I'm not going to sit here and grandstand and say Alabama's screwed. They're going to be below 500 or they're going to be 7-5. I'm not going to go that far because Kalen DeBoer is a good coach and he is trying to build this thing in his direction. And he's had a lot of defections, a lot of kids that didn't want to stick around for it because they wanted to play for Saban. They didn't sign up to play for Kalen DeBoer. But if we take a look at, like, here are some of the important guys that they're losing. They're losing Tyler Booker, their best offensive lineman. They're losing Jahad Campbell, who is going to be a first-round linebacker. Jalen Milroe, starting quarterback, and Malachi Moore, who was a
Which could
key.
be a plus if we're being honest that they're losing him.
Sure. I think where I have the most uncertainty is, one, what does their offensive line look like next year? Two, is their defense going to take a step forward or is it going to continue to be a mess? And then three, who the hell starts a quarterback? Is it Ty Simpson? Is it Austin Mack? I'm going to keep pushing. I think Keelan Russell should be in the mix as well. I don't think it would hurt them to consider.
He just got hurt. I don't know if that's.
Never mind.
I don't know how logical that is.
Never mind. Forgot about that. Never mind. Ty Simpson, Austin
but he
Mack.
Definitely could. We don't know how bad the injury is, but I mean, he definitely could. To your point, but I'm just saying. Go ahead.
No, that was it. The uncertainty at quarterback, I think, is probably the biggest part because Kalen DeBoer's success is ridden off of massive quarterback play, even for the big games that they had at Alabama. What does he get in 2025 to drive this?
It certainly comes off of throwing the football. And Joe, I mean, he tried to make Jaden Milroe more than what he is as a passer. I mean, it's just what he did. I think that you're right clearly on quarterback. Where do they go? Is it Ty Simpson's time? Can Ty Simpson be what I don't want to say what he's looking for, but can he be an overall better fit in this offense? I do not know. I legitimately don't know, but I do think it's going to be interesting to see the shot being taken by either Austin Mack or Ty Simpson here. There is something that I 100% agree with you on too, and that's the offensive line, but specifically the running game. Right? Like, Joe, they had that offensive line last year. They had all those talented guys last year, and they couldn't run the football when they needed to. I mean, Joe, quite frankly, they got bullied in moments. Now, they didn't get bullied when they played LSU, but, brother, you went up to Norman, Oklahoma with a team that literally could not throw the football. Literally could not throw it. And you got your ass whipped. Now, I think that Kalen DeBoer is not being judged fairly based off of what he literally just took over. We're expecting him to do great things at Alabama immediately. But there also comes a part where, Joe, I think from a coaching staff perspective, I think play calling has got to be better, especially defensively. I think that this is much more than talent here too. We did not criticize Saban's staffs. We didn't. But quite frankly, Joe, they got out-coached, they got out-schemed, they got out-physicaled in a lot of these games. And I don't know where you've gotten better there. Now, I still think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. My prediction for Alabama, if you remember in the preseason a year ago, was them going 9-3. There are some things in this conference. Oh, Blake, what about this year? Joe, what did all of the teams in the SEC have struggles with? Couldn't run the ball. Whether it be Ole Miss, whether it be Georgia, whether it be Alabama. And that's a massive reason why they took a step back. Joe, why did Tennessee finally break that hump and get to a playoff? They had the best player in the SEC in Dylan Sampson, and they ran the football. I think that these teams that we're going to talk about, but Bama specifically, look, play calling has got to take a next step, but, man, they got to find a way to run the football too.
Running the ball, I think, is definitely a really good point. And departures this offseason, I think, are something that should be a concern. And we know that they've got a couple of guys up and coming that could be quality players, but losing Tyler Booker is a problem. It needs to be identified as an issue. I really like Parker Brailsford. I think that he can be a really good center, and he showed some strong things as he was adding a ton more weight. And we know Caden Proctor can be the best tackle in the SEC. I think he needs to lose a little bit of weight. That's a separate conversation for a whole different issue. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You do a lot of draft stuff. Is he?
What, a little too heavy or a little too
No. One of the best tackles in the country? Bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't looked at the 2026 class yet. I don't think that he is
Joe,
yet.
the last
He
game we
needs to lose
saw,
weight. That's my whole point. He's
oh,
too top heavy right now. That's a big
brother,
problem for him.
he is a guard. I'm sorry. He is a guard.
I don't disagree with
I
that.
mean, brother, he is getting bull. The last game we saw them, their O-line, everybody wanted to point at Jalen Milroe, right? It was Milroe's fault. Milroe's fault. Milroe's fault. The O-line got dominated. Dominated.
I think you brought up one big part with this. Kalen DeBoer's a great coach. I don't think his coordinators were very good last year.
No,
and that was the thing that we spent a lot of time in the offseason like showing concern for. I think that the biggest thing that held them back, Blake, was the fact that they did not have premier assistant coaches. And I don't know if they're like just moving forward with it. Bringing back Ryan Grubb, which has not been announced. He was recently fired as the Seahawks offensive coordinator. I don't know how you're not trying to bring him back. I don't know how that hasn't been announced yet. I would hope that the phone would have been picked up and that coaching staff and Kalen DeBoer would be smart enough to realize, you know what, we need to recapture this. I forget exactly if Kalen DeBoer what his role was with calling plays, but I would like for Ryan Grubb to retake that role.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I mean, play calling was an issue, running the ball was an issue, but Joe, there are a lot of things that Bama has got to clean up. They got to clean up penalties. They got to clean up the physicality, and I don't know how you really clean up physicality. Either you have it or you're not. But Joe, let's just be frank for a minute. Name the last time that you saw games where Alabama legitimately got pushed around the way that they did. That, like, you can say
the Michigan game is the best descriptor.
I mean, well, it's not only that. They got pushed around by a physical D-line in Oklahoma. They got pushed around against Tennessee in the second half. I mean, look, you had a very banged-up offensive line going into Knoxville that pushed you around in the second half. Dylan Sampson goes off. Like, it's just the nature of the beast. You do clip Georgia, the SEC champion. That's a big win at home. They literally scored 30 points in the second half on your ass. If it's not for Ryan Williams being special, that might not happen. So, again, there comes a point in time where you got to get back to the basics in some of these instances. I'll admit this for Kalen DeBoer. He was inherited with a big problem under Nick with these penalties and the undisciplined play. That's not on him. At some point, they got to get some leadership. Maybe they'll find it. I agree with you on Grubb, by the way. Why did he get fired in Seattle? I'm not.
Their offense was really shaky, but
was he shaky or was Geno Smith shaky?
Geno Smith was shaky, and that's something that's I don't know. It seems like natural finger pointing.
Makes sense. It's going to be an interesting offseason for Alabama, that is for sure. Joe, a team that we did have in our top 10 that we did not talk about yesterday was the Georgia Bulldogs going into the SEC, the reigning defending SEC champions. Joe, I think everybody wants to know one thing about Georgia.
What's that?
Can they not? I was going to say something mean and stupid, and I get.
Yeah, you're gonna don't make yourself an enemy.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do at quarterback? I know Ryan Puglisi is somebody that a lot of people have talked about, but Gunnar Stockton did take over after Carson Beck, and it didn't go the way that they wanted. I don't think quarterback was the main issue here. I think it was the offensive line and running the football. But when you look at Georgia going into 25, your thoughts?
They're probably one of the most gutted teams in the SEC. Malachi Starks, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Tate Ratledge, Dylan Fairchild, Smile Munden. That's just to name a few. Jared Wilson, who's their starting center. Either a reset at O-line is going to be positive for them, but at the same time, we all know, and you especially know, experience at offensive line is important. But I think they're
for a big thing.
Yeah, we talked about Gunnar Stockton, how he kind of feels like he is the pulse of this team going forward. Being from Georgia, he embodies, I think, that what Georgia Bulldogs want to be. But at the same time, I'm going to stir the pot a little bit. I really think that Ryan Puglisi is something. Man, I really think that Ryan Puglisi, who coming in, and when we talked about, there was a lot of freak out over Dylan Raiola making that decision not to go to Georgia and to go to Nebraska and flip late. There is a real shot here that they still ended up with a premier guy. I think that Puglisi, and why Georgia didn't show really any care or worry about losing Raiola, is because of how gifted
Well,
he
and
can be.
Jaden Rashada too. I mean,
Well, he's gone now.
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, why does he leave? He's not leaving if he's going to really get a shot at this. I mean, it looks like Puglisi had passed him up here.
Right. I mean, that's the biggest part. And I think that that's the biggest positive sign for if he could be in the mix for this starting job, because he passed up Rashada, who was another former 5-star premier guy.
Look, I'm going to keep it simple because we're in January here. I'm with you on quarterback. I still think that they're going to be fine there. Start either guy, if I'm being honest. They did not lose because of Gunnar Stockton. They lost because Gunnar Stockton was under immense pressure. He literally had no running game. And you're asking a guy to throw the football around. Well, that's not actually just completely his game. Not right now, it's not. Right? Like, it's not his overall strength. You got to be able to help him with running the football and playing old Georgia style of football. That's not what he does. Joe, the O-line got physically abused. Literally got physically abused. I don't know how else to say what Notre Dame did to them. That's exactly what happened. You can't run the football on them without their best defensive lineman in the second half. That's a crying shame. So, how do they look along their offensive front, I think, is a big question. They've had some shakeups there, and they're going to have more shakeups. Having Van Pran go to the pros and having a new center is a big deal. How does that shakeup occur? Defensively, I'm just going to be point blank and honest with you. I ain't ever worried about Kirby Smart defensively. I don't know where it's coming from, and we can talk about it. We're going to talk about it probably come March, probably come May, June, July, August. I ain't doing it. You gonna miss me on literally saying, oh, well, they're missing a lot. Joe, literally, did you watch the game yesterday with the Commanders and the Eagles? Literally. The entire defensive line is from the University of Georgia. By the way, that same Georgia line that left, Joe, this defensive line in front seven for Georgia was still really freaking good this year. I mean, like, they reload there. They're recruiting at a top 2 level every single year. Where do all of these dudes come from? Joe, let's go look at the last 2 classes. 5-star, 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 all in the defensive front seven. You're going to miss me on defensively, them not being there. The question ultimately becomes, can you get back to running the football? Can you be better on third down? And not turning the ball over will be the ultimate season for the University of Georgia.
I think the biggest positive thing, and we discussed this already, the thing I feel the most excited about is the reshaping of this receiver room. Noah Thomas is an underrated player, but I'm going to keep saying it. I think the biggest candidate for having an amazing season next year, we're going to do a show where we do breakout players. Zachariah Branch isn't really a breakout player. I'm probably not going to put him in there. But if we're talking about a dude who's going to go from, I think he had like 700 yards or something like that this past year, for somebody to go for 1,200 and 12 scores, that could totally be Zachariah Branch playing for this team.
Whew.
I mean, he's a spark plug, dude. I mean, Lincoln Riley failed to get the most out of him.
All right, well, he fails to get the – I'm going to throw this out there about Lincoln Riley.
Okay.
Lincoln Riley's career has fallen off a cliff ever since he posted that picture of him cooking brisket.
That was his mistake. I mean, he was better off in LA anyways, man. Brisket.
He was better off not letting the general public know that he cooked a dry ass brisket.
Yeah, that's just a bad vibe. Bad vibe. I can't trust a coach who can't figure out how to do that.
I mean, come on. It's on YouTube. You could
or to have the self-awareness to post it too. Like to think that like this looks good.
That dude has no self-awareness whatsoever. Number 5 that I had written down here was wide receiver room. Joe, they led the SEC in drops, man.
Yeah, trustworthy guy. Noah Thomas is good hands. Zachariah Branch can be steady.
I'm just going to say this now. Noah Thomas is a freak. I don't give two Rudy Poos what any A&M fan's going to come in here and talk about. That dude is a flat-out freak of nature. They went out and did something really special at wide receiver. It's an underrated duo. You were right. But, man, do they have somebody that can get them the football consistently is going to be an ultimate question that everybody's going to have.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
But if they don't lead the SEC in drops.
I mean, it's a low bar. It's a low bar.
I mean, bro, How different is the Notre Dame Georgia game if Dylan Bell catches that football? Well, Blake, we wind up going down and scoring on that drive. Sounds good. It also took you 4 more minutes to do it. Could you have used 4 more minutes against Notre Dame to win that football game? There's a strong possibility that you did. All right. Joe, the last team here is the Ole Miss Rebels. Lane Kiffin has not won back-to-back seasons and had 10 wins until he got to the bowl game, and he did it in back-to-back seasons this past year.
Congrats on beating Duke, Lane.
I mean, buddy, he's at Ole Miss. Not the season I think the Ole Miss Rebels wanted to have last year. They went out in the portal. Their money was very well spent. They had one of the top 5 defenses in the country, the number 1 defense in sacks, the number 2, 3, whatever it was, defense and rush defense. Their money paid off. They went out, they spent money, they got one of the best defenses. Offensively, they had one massive problem. Joe, it's what every SEC team struggled with this year. Do you want to guess what it is? They couldn't run the football.
Bingo.
So again, we're talking about 3 teams that possibly didn't meet up to expectations. All of them have the number 1 problem. Joe, what you doing at quarterback? Is this waiver going through with Jackson Dart? Or are we sure that this waiver is going through with Jackson Dart?
Wait, what?
There's always this massive rumor going around with Jackson Dart filing a waiver with the NCAA and Lane playing around with it and all that stuff. I don't know.
I'm not putting any stock.
Jackson Dart's going to the NFL.
I'm not. He could be the 3rd quarterback taken. I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But
yeah, Simmons looked really freaking good against Georgia. I'm going to just put that out there. I actually feel pretty good. Like you said about Kirby, I'm not worried about Kirby's defense. I'm not worried about Kiffin finding a quarterback.
I'm not really either. One thing that is interesting, Simmons is a baseball player now. So I don't know how much he's going to be there during the season. That is a concern for me. I'm just going to let it be known.
Better tell him to lock the hell in and stop.
Well, you say that, but Jameis Winston literally played a season of baseball at Florida State and then came back and won the Heisman Trophy and a national title, if I'm not mistaken.
It's fair. It's a fair point.
So it can't happen. Joe, there's a lot to replace here. Have you replaced what you just had? Yeah, I mean you got a tough schedule going into next season now.
To add context to that, Princely Uman-Mielen gone, one of the biggest sack getters this past year in the SEC. Walter Nolan, one of the best interior defensive linemen. You know, there's a lot that can be said about his consistency, but still important player. Trey Harris, top receiver. He was banged up a ton this year, but still a premier guy. Trey Amos, one of the best DBs in the SEC this past year. Jared Ivey, one of the most underrated edge defenders this year.
He is the most underrated edge rusher in the SEC this year.
Without a doubt. Juice Wells, who's a quality receiver, and then obviously we just talked about there with Jackson Dart. Kiffin did the same thing that he does. He went and grabbed a ton of guys in the portal. A lot of good players. Caleb Odom, Prince Will Uman-Mielen, who's Princely's younger brother. Dejon Stribling, you've just figured out your receiver room. The question that you bring up is the biggest one. How much better is their offensive line? How much better is their run game? Because their offensive line, they don't have the 4 or 5 star bodies that all of these other programs are recruiting. They just don't. And that's been holding them back, which is crazy.
I mean, look, I know that I don't necessarily want to get into it with Ole Miss fans about Quinshon Judkins, the money. Do you pay him? Do you not pay him? Well, Ohio State did, and they won a national title. He was a massive part of being a part of that. You could not run the football last year. Your O-line was banged up. I get it. You couldn't run the football in moments and times when you had to go on the road and beat LSU. You couldn't do it when you lost to Kentucky. And you do clip Georgia. You do beat Georgia. And you overcome that hump if you're Lane. And listen, I'm giving Lane Kiffin that he got over that hump. He beat Kirby when he was not supposed to. But there also comes a time where, Joe, you go on the road to Florida. The two games that you probably shouldn't have lost, Kentucky and Florida this year. I mean, come the hell on. Come the hell. Joe, it's revolved around one thing. Jackson Dart, in my humble opinion, last year, was the most underrated quarterback in the SEC outside of the Florida game, but he has no running game. Joe, you went out and got a lot of dudes on your defensive line a year ago. I think that you were a lot more balanced this year in the portal. But, man, if you don't get back to some of the things that you were doing, you're going to be in trouble.
But by the way, let's punt and do Heisman on Wednesday so we can actually give that segment good attention. But
well, you were screaming at me again about Notre Dame.
No. I tried to change the subject and you wouldn't let me. To talk about the running back stuff, though, outside, we're here addressing the offensive line stuff. Like, how much better can their offensive line be this upcoming year? Is there really going to be much of an improvement? But are we just hoping that Logan Diggs is the solution there for them at running back coming off the injury?
I'm gonna call it like I see it, and I LSU people aren't gonna like this. Notre Dame people aren't gonna like this. So what is new? Shit. Y'all go right on ahead and think Logan Diggs can't mess you up.
Oh, he's a good player. He's just coming off of a serious injury, though. So that's kind of where
I didn't see a snap this year. You got 2 years to rehab. I mean,
fair,
man. That kid's physical, man. Weird things got weird there at the end, I guess, but at both schools. But man, I'm just telling you, that kid runs hard, brother. You better buckle up your chin strap when Logan Diggs is in the backfield.
I don't disagree, man. I think that his impact early at Notre Dame, I was disappointed that ND lost him.
If we're being honest, if we're being dead honest, you want to talk about like wild card, random ass breakout players? Shit, if I don't know it.
I mean, I wouldn't even consider that a breakout because we know that he's a great player. But for the general public, they're going to be like, "Who's this Logan Diggs
he can
guy?"
Run the football. He can run the football. Does he? Is
that the solution though? Do we think him alone
revitalizes
the running back?
No, I don't, brother. My brother in Christ. I saw one of the worst defensive lines at LSU physically dominate them for 2 quarters in that second half. Yeah. Bullshit. You got one breakout run from Ulysses S. Bennett IV, the law firm of Ulysses S. Bentley IV, okay? And you didn't even play him.
They brought in the only top tackle that they have in, and admittedly don't have enough knowledge on Patrick Kutas from Arkansas. He's listed at 284, though.
They went and got some running backs, too. Name them.
The running backs that they added, they weren't anybody big name. Kawan Lacey and Jordan Simmons. I need to check this kid's weight, though, if he's actually only 284.
No, he's not 284. He won't start the season for Ole Miss at 284, I promise you.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know. It's still a little. He was a junior, and he's coming in at 284. I don't know. That's a little. Oh, no, this has him listed at 313. Ignore that.
Yeah.
That's ESPN. On 3 has some fake numbers. I'm not trying to call him out. I'm just trying to say here that, like, who's their best offensive lineman?
I don't know.
I don't think there's any like premier guy. This has been the biggest thing that the run game stuff's an issue, but to me, the thing that plagues them the most is just not having. Every good team has like one offensive lineman. It's like, oh shit, that guy's going to the NFL. Like that guy is going to be a starter in the NFL. He is going to be really good. That can't be said about Ole Miss.
The only way that you get around it, the only way that you can get around that, let's just call it what it is. You have a dude like Quinshon Judkins that can just see a random asshole, jump cut in that hole, and go off.
Yeah, but that requires. That's still not even like good running backs need space, man. Like they need space to run.
I mean, Saquon Barkley literally, if we're just being honest, I mean, Romo pointed out in the Brady pointed out in the telecast. He's like, just letting y'all know, there are no run lanes.
I know as a Giants fan that we weren't doing shit for him. I understand that. I'm perfectly aware.
Okay, first off, I
know the Giants could have had Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley this year. Yeah, I know, Blake. I know. Don't say it. Don't say it. I don't need to hear it. I think about that every damn day.
You as a Giants fan, I'm personally going to clip this. Y'all could have had Jane Daniels and Saquon Barkley in the backfield. And you know what's even worse? On Hard Knocks, the GM's son is laying on his couch and told him, look, bro, like, don't overthink this. You go up and get Jane Daniels.
Tell me that's not the best offense in the NFL. Tell me that's not the best offense in the NFL. And they wouldn't have had Malik Neighbors. That's the only disappointing thing. But
no, but I mean, if we're just being frank, what does Jaden really need? I mean, he did not.
He did have Terry McLaurin. The Giants don't have Terry McLaurin.
But I mean, he had 3 offensive linemen banged up. I mean, we're fighting in the weeds here. All right.
Okay, yeah. Good show.
God, y'all could have had Saquon Barkley.
Don't stop it. End the show. End the show.
Oh, it's the most Notre Dame thing ever. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.